Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Houstonic Live. It is Saturday, March 4th, year 2023. My name is Mark Kulak. We do tech history, governance, archival, topics of the past, digging them up, organizing, archiving, analyzing to better understand the present and where we're going in the world. Brought to you by someone who was a data storage software engineer and competitive analyst, product marketing director, and so on. And but that's not really too important tonight. Tonight is a show that I have been wanting to do for a long time. It may be a difficult show for me to do, but it's going to be a little bit somber, a little bit serious. But we're also going to be thankful and try to be as uplifting as we can. And this is a memorial show for a Dr. Annelisa Marcel Kilbourn. The 20th anniversary of her passing happened last November. She had died in November of 2002, and now we are in March of 2023, excuse me. We're going to read her biography of Annelisa Kilbourn, and I'll put her picture up here. There is a Wikipedia page for Dr. Kilbourn, which I've archived. I don't know how much the current one has changed. As you know, we archive many of the pages that we have in our database. Admittedly, start off as Wikipedia pages. Wikipedia pages are a great first step to the general biography of people of historical and of course, current significance. And of course, sorry, I'm having a little bit of a microphone cable here. I'm going to have to get another one of those. It's just getting a little bit glitchy on me. And so we have about 1,000 or so pages right now of companies and individuals in our archive. And Annelisa came to our attention when we were doing research on Metabiota and the company which is associated with providing predictive software and analysis of current and potential future pandemics for investment firms and for other government branches. And their founder, Nathan Wolff, I don't know if he's still the CEO of Metabiota or not. And Nathan Wolff had worked with Annelisa Kilbourn quite a few years ago, starting in like 1997 up until the time of her passing in 2002. Other people of significance, including a Dr. William Koresh, who actually came up today in a GigaHome Biological show because he was a peer of someone who's recently been interviewed, a Dr. Andrew Huff, previously of EcoHealth Alliance, excuse me. And what Annelisa Kilbourn was known for, I'll put myself, try not to dominate the screen too much here, is, she was quite passionate about her job as a zoologist, as an ecologist, as someone who just wanted to study animals in their natural habitat and help protect them. But the one thing that she got known for, in addition to about 15 or 20 or so research papers that she was on, included that she supposedly had found some dead primates in West Africa. And when the analysis of the primates were done, they found traces of Ebola or other filoviruses, sort of like Marburg, if you will. And it had provided some evidence at the time, this is around 2001 or so, that the Ebola and Marburg viruses can leap species. And that was one of her bigger claims. Now, it wasn't necessarily her being out front saying that that's what happened, but she was credited with finding the evidence. Okay. And the plane crash that she died in in November of 2002 was in West Africa, was in Gabon. I would go far out to say that the plane crash is highly suspicious. There's no record of the plane crash in any FAA logs. There were 3 other people on the plane, and they all lived, and their names are not disclosed. I tried reaching out to her family several months ago, probably at least several months ago, maybe almost a year ago. She has a sister, and they did not respond, and I fully understand that. Her mother had some issues after the death, and her father died a year afterwards. And she lived in lived in Connecticut, although I think she was English and her ancestry, I think, traces back to Switzerland. But we'll review all that. So we're going to review the Wikipedia page for her, the one that I've archived. We're going to review some articles about her from the Wildlife Conservation Fund, WCF, which has a role in the funding of the Bronx Zoo in New York City. And we'll read a few other articles about her. The show may take a little more than an hour or so. I do have a chat window open, but as a show that is intended to be preserved, because no one else has done a show on Annelisa Kilbourn, I would like this to be available as a show for people to be able to digest and learn of her history from wherever background they're coming from. Although there are current events which tie in actually to some of the circumstances and companies and interests that involved Dr. Kilbourn at the time of her passing. I don't want this memorial show for her to be defined strictly by those. And I had the same policy when I did a show for Dr. Francis Plummer, Dr. Sally Heat, who passed in Washington, D.C., and so on. And since, unfortunately, no one else has been doing this, I feel some burden on me. So, again, if I will, but let's not make it about me. Anyways, let me open up the page here for her. Give me 1 second. I only actually decided not too long before this broadcast actually to do this show here. I do have a link to the page down below, so you can go through all of the assets yourself. The picture that's on the left is actually from a Tufts Journal, 2003 journal, and the one from the right was deep in the archives. There were memorial pages set up for her. You think 2002, 2003, we're talking about 20 years ago on the internet, where it was just organized a little bit differently. But those memorials were taken offline, and it was very difficult to find what we did. But we've done this work about a year or so ago. And it was actually, I must give credit to the individuals who I worked with at the Neighborhood News for a few months out of Michigan, and in particular Aaron Adler, who helped, who I remember doing some of this research with. And thanks to him. Let's see here. So the archived Wikipedia page, Annelisa Marcel Kilbourn was born June 27th, 1967. She passed on November 2nd of 2002. She was a British conservationist, veterinarian, and wildlife expert. She worked in Malaysia. We put the picture of her while I'm talking here. She worked in Malaysia she worked in Malaysia guarding free-ranging elephants and orangutans and protecting Sumatran rhinoceros and in Madagascar, studying ring-tailed lemurs. Kilbourn went on to work at the Lincoln Park Zoo and Shed Aquarium in Chicago. In Gabon, she established that wild gorillas were susceptible to the death of the Ebola virus and could be transmitted to humans through hunting and eating infected species. In 2003, Kilbourn was posthumously elected to the Global 500 Roll of Honor by the United Nations Environment Program, Early Life and Education. On July 27th, June 1967, Kilbourn was a British citizen born in Zurich, Switzerland. She was the daughter of Hans and Barry Kilbourn. Her father was working as a chemist in Zurich. Kilbourn has one sister. She went on to reside in Belgium before relocating to Westport, Connecticut in 1981. Kilbourn was fluent in seven languages. Dutch, English, French, German, a language that I can't even pronounce, Malagasy, Malay, M-A-L-A-Y, and Swahili. She wanted to be a veterinary clinic. She wanted to be a veterinary from when she turned either 6 or 7, and while at high school, volunteered at Westport, Connecticut's Nature Center, regularly taking wounded animals home for treatment. Kilbourn studied environmental biology and French at the University of Connecticut, which she graduated from in 1990. Her advisor discerned her academic ability and encouraged her to apply for an East African internship. In 1996, Kilbourn graduated from Tufts University Veterinary School with a veterinary medical degree. I'm just checking the chat here, make sure that the sound is great. Good. Career. Following her graduation from Tufts University, she got a Wildlife Health Fellowship from the Wildlife Conservation Society to study orangutans in Sabah, Malaysia. Between 1996 and 1998, Kilbourn helped to guard and relocate free-ranging elephants and orangutans and to protect the 30 remaining Sumatran rhinoceroses. She also studied ring-tailed lemurs in Madagascar and helped orangutans trapped in the Malaysian rainforest by agricultural development. When Kilbourn completed the project, she worked at the Lincoln Park Zoo and Shedd Aquarium in Chicago as part of a postdoctorate program from 1998 to 2000. At Shedd, she put on aquatic gear to assist in the tending of ailing dolphins and whales and was instrumental in forming the aquarium's Amazon Rising exhibit, guiding visitors through, quote, through a misty river basin forest where piranhas, arawans, and other species peer through lush greenery, unquote. Kilbourn went on to accept a permanent post at the Shedd, but did not work with the SOS Rhino Project to save the rhinoceroses in Borneo and with the Wildlife Conservation Society in Central Africa. While working in Central Africa, she deployed modern technology such as global positioning systems and computerized tracking systems in the study of wildlife navigation. Kilbourn also spoke in French to program software to enable squads to compile data on handheld devices. She frequently lived in the jungle, consuming peanut butter for protein and sometimes used generators at the camps she set up, or was frequently unable to contact the outside world for weeks. Kilbourn established on-site laboratories at multiple locations for trained project individuals to conduct analysis of biological samples. In May 2001, she flew to Gabon to begin part of the Wildlife Conservation Societies. I said WCW, I apologize. It's the WCS, the Wildlife Conservation Society. Gorilla Health Evaluation and Monitoring Program, developing protocols with multiple organizations working in gorilla conservation to try to prevent transmittable diseases between animals and humans. In October 2001, while still in Gabon, she and other project leaders were asked to venture to Congo. This is actually, remember, time frame. This is 4 weeks after September 11th, 2001. To venture to Congo and northern Gabon to investigate an outbreak of tropical Ebola virus, which killed humans and at least 30 gorillas and 12 chimpanzees in villages close to the border with Congo and Gabon. Kilbourn collected samples of blood and tissue from deceased gorillas in the jungle and determined wild gorillas were susceptible to death of the Ebola virus as well as finding out the disease could be transmitted to humans through hunting and the consumption of infected species. She also found that hunting from indigenous populations also contributed to the decline in the gorilla population and attempted to persuade the population to not consume ape meat. Her death on November 2nd of 2002, while the plane was still traveling was about to land in an animal reserve in the Lope, L-O-P-E, Nature Preserve in Gabon. She was killed when it crashed. 3 others in the plane were unhurt. A memorial service for Kilbourn was held at the Bronx Zoo in the afternoon on November 15th, 2002. And in her legacy, the Wildlife Conservation Society set up a memorial fund in Kilbourn's name to assist veterinarians in other countries. So let's show some of the work that we have for her. We did find on PubMed Dr. Annelisa Kilbourn. She actually wrote, she was involved in the author of this paper, Conservation Medicine, with Sharon Deem. I've done some videos, including her, actually. Nathan Wolfe, Robert Cook, who was a senior person at the Bronx Zoo, and William Koresh. She had also worked with the wild primate populations and emerging infectious disease research, the missing link. She did that work also with Nathan Wolfe, William Koresh. Let's see here, the phylogenetic and evolutionary history of a novel alpha globin type gene in orangutans, also with Nathan Wolfe. And because of her early passing, of course, she did not get an opportunity to write as much, or as she was on the path to writing and to publishing. She also a few other Dr. Gubler. I've also seen her name on some of her work, and the rest I'm not totally familiar with. But I would say Nathan Wolfe and William Koresh were probably the 2 people who she published the most work with. And of course, we found the queries that there's just no record anywhere of any plane crash there. So we did find a copy of her resume, her CV, if you will. I think this was dated in, I think it's a 2001 or 2000 resume. So that's been archived. We had to dig that out deep from the archives. You'll find mentions of her in the Wildlife Conservation Society annual report. This is a big report. Much of it is dedicated to the Bronx Zoo in New York City. As a matter of fact, she worked directly under Tracy McNamara. Dr. Tracy McNamara is the scientist or at the Bronx Zoo who found the dead birds that was the proof of West Nile virus coming to the United States for the first time, and was part of the initial, how would you say, that discovery was part of the West Nile virus outbreak alert in 1999-2000. So her boss was that she reported to at the Bronx Zoo was fairly well known, and McNamara is still active in the One Health program. So in this here, we'll read this excerpt here. And these are very difficult to find, but fortunately we have the full issues now archived, and I highlighted the areas. She was in the Department of Pathology. There, this is the 1997 one. Through the generosity of the Wildlife Health and Sciences Committee, 2 key pieces of equipment were acquired: a photographic archival program and our CD-ROM system. Let's see here. They talk about a Dr. Michael Lynn, Dr. Tracy McNamara, and I know there is a mention in here of, it's somewhere in this highlighted area. I'm sorry, that's not quite jumping out at me right now. Should have worked a little harder, I suppose, to highlight that area. Oh yeah, that was the evidence that she had worked for McNamara here. Later on in the episode, it says, in Asia, Dr. Annelisa Kilbourn was hired to assist the Malaysian government in rescuing orangutan stranded by agricultural development and then releasing them into protected forests. And this was reflected in the Wikipedia page. This approach to managing isolated groups of wildlife not only allows veterinarians to study the health of the animals, but also provides vital information for the development of techniques that can be used for wildlife species in other parts of the world. This was an article from the New York Times, actually, November 4th, 1997, titled Rescue of Besieged Orangutan AIDS Research. And it's really a whole article about her and Dr. William Koresh of EcoHealth Alliance, as well as the One Health initiative. Yeah, so that was a good shout out here. This is a rather important document in the founding of the One Health doctrine. It's referred to quite frequently with Nathan Wolfe, William Koresh. Wild primate populations and emerging infectious disease research, the missing link. Lots of discussion about the current ongoing new transmissibility of viruses, in particular between primates, bushmeat, and the human populations of those areas. And this, of course, was done in tandem with Nathan Wolfe. The Wildlife Conservation Society, 1998, again from New York Zoo, actually does have a nice, a really wonderful picture of her and looks like a baby elephant. This was from 1998, so she would have been about 30. Remember that, about 30, 31. Here it says in this area here, they talk about Robert Hooke, who she worked with, and again, Sharon Deem. Very cool stuff. This is another important document. Again, part of the One Health doctrine, and this was a big part of course, creating one of the justifications of EcoHealth Alliance. Going on a little bit further here, her obituary here. This is from the New York Times, so it was in the New York Times. Which speaks to the prominence that Dr. Annelisa Kilbourn was at. Annelisa Kilbourn, age 35, dies tied to Ebola deaths of gorillas. And I'll read this here. Annelisa Kilbourn, a British veterinarian and wildlife expert who established that gorillas can die of the deadly Ebola virus, was killed Saturday when the light plane she was flying in crashed in the Lobi Nature Preserve in Central African nation of Gabon. She was 35. Working for the Wildlife Conservation Society, which announced her death yesterday from its headquarters at the Bronx Zoo, Dr. Kilbourn was investigating last year's Ebola outbreak in that country and its relationship to the indigenous gorilla population. Earlier this year, again, this is from 2002, Dr. Kilbourn established for the first time that Ebola is a serious threat to wild gorillas as well as to humans when she found dead specimens in the jungle and found that the disease had killed them, the society said. Her findings had important implications for the preservation of Africa's primates, as well as the spread of the disease among humans. Scientists had already noted that an earlier outbreak of Ebola in the same area in 1996 had led to a sharp decline in the gorilla population, and now they know why. They also now knew that Ebola, as well as predatory hunting by humans, is one of the reasons gorillas are fast disappearing from Africa's forests. Dr. Kilbourn's discovery also made it increasingly important to protect the major concentration of gorillas, believed to be the largest left in the world, living in the nearby Odzala National Park, about 100 kilometers away over the border in Congo, by controlling access to them by humans and animals that might be carrying the virus. Before her death, Dr. Kilbourn had herself been in charge of protecting the health of these animals. That's a young age for that. Finally, the knowledge that gorillas, as well as chimpanzees and monkeys, are vulnerable to Ebola implied that one of the ways the disease spreads among humans is through the hunting and eating of infected primates. And not to take away from the moment here, but as a researcher, I must say her resume, her obituary seems to be mostly about reminding the reader that Ebola can jump between species, as opposed to talking about the legacy of her work. as opposed to talking about her family, as opposed to talking about other passions that she had in life. It's a very, I don't like the way this obituary reads. Let's see here. And then the last few paragraphs, like 2 paragraphs. It's like when she was born, she went to the school, University of Connecticut. She was in Malaysia for a while, and she's survived by her parents and her sister. So I think she deserved a better obituary than a sales pitch that Ebola leaps around between animals. Let's see here, and of course we can see that the death notice was paid by the trustees at the Bronx Zoo. The best obituaries you'll find for her are actually from the state of Connecticut. Hartford Courant has a much longer story of hers. It gets much more. This was some of what the sourcing, I believe, was used for the Wikipedia, including the fact that she speaks 7 languages, and I can barely speak mine properly. So there's that. And I found extensive information from these. It was a website that had been backed up. Last backup was October 6, 2016. Unfortunately, after, I wonder what happened then. That's strange. That was the last time that this was backed up. October 2016. What happened November 2016? So I had to. So I didn't even know that this website existed, and this is what I used as one of the primary sources for photographs and such. And I actually downloaded the memorial page that included all the comments of people who left comments as a memorial for Dr. Annelisa Kilbourn. And I'll read the first one here. I think this one's this is the high level part of the. It's actually a set of memorial pages. There were several pages written about her, and the list of people who left comments was huge. And I did read somewhere that hundreds of people did show up to her funeral at the Bronx Zoo. She was remarkably well respected by many, many people. Most of us have relegated our personal heroes to comic books or movie screens, but the friends, colleagues, and the loved ones of Annelisa Marcel Kilbourn found their ultimate role model far closer to home. Quote, if there was anyone I knew personally I could say was a hero, to me it was Annelisa, unquote, wrote animal keeper Mike Skidmore of Lincoln Park Zoo. Mike Skidmore went on to say, quote, she did so much of what most of us only dream of doing. I'm glad she was doing what she believed in and loved, unquote. Annelisa Kilbourn lived, loved, and died, saving captive and free-ranging wild animals and their ecosystems, devoting her life to a career she considered a natural extension of herself. Annelisa understood and accepted the inherent risks of her profession. Tragically killed the afternoon of Saturday, November 2nd, in a small plane accident in the Lobe Nature Preserve in Gabon, Annelisa will be sorely missed by all. And for those lucky enough to have personally known her and worked with her, Annelisa's indomitable spirit and inexhaustible passion will outshine her renowned contributions. If Annelisa's headline-grabbing confirmation earlier this year that gorillas can succumb to Ebola outbreaks changed the very course of primate studies and virology, the work was merely a natural extension of an entire life successfully devoted to her passions. Born in Zurich, Switzerland, June 27, 1967, Annelisa embodied a spirit of internationalism and adventure from the beginning. A British citizen, raised in Europe, educated in America, Annelisa trained as a pilot and became a black belt in Taekwondo even before majoring in ecology and environmental biology at the University of Connecticut in 1990. Participation in the Kenyan wildlife ecology and management program merely got Annelisa's feet wet for field work, which continued enthusiastically throughout her graduate studies and into her professional career. Arriving in Malaysia in 1996, she studied the orangutans in Borneo while based in Sepulak Rehabilitation Center. During the course of her 2-year mission, Dr. Kilbourn and her wildlife ranger team relocated more than 140 wild orangutans from dangerous forest pockets to the better protected wildlife forest reserve. Her field work also involved orangutan research and identification through the routine collection and analysis of blood, hair, and feces. Then a groundbreaking approach, now considered standard procedure. Her team also studied primate parasites and undertook malaria diagnosis and treatment. To further supplement her identification and tracking efforts, Annelisa introduced orangutan tattooing and microchip implantation, creating an unprecedented record of animal activity in the region. Following the orangutan release back into the wild, Dr. Kilbourn used helicopter observation to study and monitor orangutan nest and population densities. Returning to the States and receiving her doctorate in veterinary medicine from Tufts in 1996, she immediately returned to field work. She didn't live in Lower Manhattan, going to corporate meetings. She did the work, devoting herself to, with the hands-on protection of free-ranging elephants in Malaysia. Annelisa and her new wildlife ranger team rapidly relocated 14 trapped elephants in an exercise that perfected capture and tranquilization techniques. The rescued elephants were genetically tested before release back into the forest, an analysis that revealed the species to be indigenous to Borneo. Such findings not only shed new light on the elephant species itself, but proved vital for efforts used to ensure their continued survival. Dr. Kilbourn's work with endangered species continued with the Sumatran rhinos at Sepulak. Endangered to the point of virtual extinction, fewer than 30 individual rhinos are confined to 3 tiny habitats in the northeastern part of Borneo. Applying the techniques and personal experience acquired with her orangutan field work, Annelisa further honed her craft in an unprecedented effort to rescue the rarest and most difficult to locate animals on the planet. Few argue that Annelisa's pioneering work is helping to save the species from extinction. Annelisa's post-doctoral odyssey continued with an internship at Chicago's Lincoln Park Zoo and Shedd Aquarium. Accepting an associate veterinary position at the Shedd, she rapidly honed her professional skills and acquired the inimitable reputation as a woman capable of accomplishing whatever she set out to do. Restless when separated from her cherished field work, Dr. Kilbourn accepted a field scientist position in 2002 with SOS Rhino, a U.S.-based nonprofit, non-governmental conservation organization devoted to saving endangered rhinos, including the highly jeopardized Sumatran rhino. Returning to Sabah after an absence of 2 years, Annelisa established her ranger team. She had a team of people. Wow. That's impressive. And got right to work. She began with field surveys to determine population size and density, demographics, nutrition, and risk information. Annelisa's skills as a scientist and researcher were matched only by her capacity to network with professional colleagues, government officials, and native helpers. She even developed a computerized wildlife navigation tracking system to facilitate communication and animal localization. She trained her ranger team to identify rhinos in the Tabin Wildlife Reserve, fully utilizing everything from computerized GPS systems to photo trap cameras. Her scientific and technical expertise were supplemented by her passion for basic field work. Finding fresh rhino hoof prints of unrecorded animals brought several animals, including a mother and a calf, into their sights and onto the protection agenda. It also talks about the Cincinnati Zoo. And of course, this a paragraph here about the Ebola virus. And I like this obituary more than I'm reading from the SOS site because it talks for a paragraph about the Ebola work, the discovery that she had made, and much more about all of the other aspects of her work. And I find it to be, this is what the New York Times should have done. And for those who do go to the Houstonic site, again, I archived every photo I possibly could find on the Wayback Machine and on the Internet Archive. I got the impression that some of them were being erased. So having died in 2002, most of these photos are from 2000 or 2001. I estimate she would have been age 33 to 35 in most of these photos here. And these are not professional photo shoots. You could just tell this is not a Nathan Wolf, with the freshly pressed shirt. You can just get a sense that this is down in the dirt, actually climbing trees on ropes, a work that Dr. Kilbourn was involved in. There is some talk about the handspring equipment, cyber tracker, and so on, for those who want to get into that. And if you dive into the BBC, you'll see mentions of the work that Annelisa Kilbourn was doing with primates. And perhaps, probably the last thing I'm going to read is from science.org. So this is the triple AS here. Double jeopardy for African apes. Hunting Ebola outbreaks could push populations to the brink. Now, this article here was actually written by Gary Nabel of the Vaccine Research Center for Anthony Fauci. Also talks about anthropologist Alexander Hancourt of the University of California, Davis. And also quotes the work of Dr. William Koresh, I believe. But when Science Magazine in 2004 talks about the groundbreaking research of having found Ebola jumping back and forth still between primates and humans, it was this Annelisa Kilbourn's work that they were referencing. Now, she wasn't in the lab in Frederick, Maryland, doing the analysis. She was finding the remains, and based upon the evidence, it appeared as though Ebola had killed them. She was a primatologist, but she wasn't necessarily a virologist. However, the discovery is attributed to her. And I'm just trying to emphasize the importance of this discovery here for future outbreaks. So please use the site. Feel free to make all the copies you want. I, of course, back everything up 10 days till Sunday, 10 ways till Sunday. It is, I have copies all over the country of the content that we are archiving here. This is the only video, in spite of the entire internet. There's not one video you'll find anyone has ever made of Annelisa Kilbourn, and if they had, they've been erased. And this is our mission here, to preserve and protect this history. And because this is, first of all, she deserved it. Her family deserves it. And I think going forward, people need to know about the great people that preceded them and the inherent risks in this, the work that she was involved in. If there's anything I can do to continue to honor her legacy and her role, let me know if you have any videos or any other content to share. And with that said, thank you very much for being part of the program. I couldn't find enough information to know what songs she liked. I like to do that when I do memorials. So we're just going to close out the program here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. God bless. We will be live tomorrow night. We do appreciate all your support. Take care.